Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1748 of our daily content grind. So, I'm answering a Patreon request today, but this one, in order to actually answer this, we have to recount some old ground. Things that we've talked about before, maybe across several videos, but we're going to expound upon them today, and we are going to add in a few more things that I've missed in the past. And then we're going to get to the point of the video toward the end. Suffice to say, we're talking Transformers Energon today, specifically the TV series, whether you watched it as Energon or subtitled as Superlink. It's one of the most infamous Transformers series, as probably one of the worst cartoons we've ever had. And that's, in a world where the War for Cybertron Siege cartoon exists, that's saying a lot. In a world where the Machinima series exists, that's saying a lot. Like I said, I know I've talked about this in the past. I know there's no dedicated video to Energon specifically. I have searched up and down, unless I did something weird with the title. Like I said, we're going to go over some old ground, but we're also going to cover some new stuff too. So I'm going to at least make it worth recounting. So we're basically talking the story failings of Transformers Energon without getting into like episode by episode, like reactionary stuff. And that's going to start with the most obvious of flaws to Energon's writing, and that's what happened to Starscream. I think this is the most universally hated choice in the entirety of the Transformers Energon franchise. You take Armada Starscream, one of the most beloved incarnations of the character ever, and you turn him into this. Visually, really cool. Personality-wise, he's just a loyal soldier to Megatron, which anyone will tell you is the worst characterization a Starscream can ever have. Armada Starscream was something really, really special. It feels like a simplification of the character to not make him power hungry, but just an overall hatred of Megatron actually gave the character a little bit more complexity. They gained power, but didn't take advantage of it. They hated Megatron as a person, as a leader, for his treatment of his troops, for his treatment of the Minicons. He had legitimate reason for disliking Megatron as a person, and that is what drove his desire to fight him and get rid of him. Not a just a grab for power. It's why he joined the Autobots. It's why he had human friends. It's why he developed so well as a character. And then you just turn him into this mindless goon who's literally brainwashed by Megatron into becoming a loyal soldier again. It loses so much potential. There is so much story potential lost. And such a good characterization completely scrapped. And yeah, like everyone has the right to hate this choice in particular. But it's not just Starscream. Let's not forget Demolishor in all of this as well. For 6 episodes, we had something fascinating. The aftermath of Energon, or the aftermath of Armada, meant that the Decepticons that survived have to get along with the Autobots. For the most part, the truce has remained. It's uneasy, but, the Decepticons are actually falling into Autobot lifestyle. Some better than others. Cyclonus is just kind of doing his own thing, but Tidal Wave's got steady work, and Demolishor's kind of just one in the team, and he actually has friends amongst the Autobots. A little bit uneasy, but still, like he's generally liked, and he's genuinely given a chance to be one of them. And this would have been a fantastic character to run off. And then they just brainwash him too. Now, granted, he ultimately decides on his own to return to Megatron, but I ask you, for what reason? For what reason? The character we got was just a dumber version of the original Demolishor. They just, in the Japanese version especially, where he's literally just a sentient gorilla. This whole thing is just chest beating and just monkey noises. We've got a completely different character who went by the exact same name, and we're supposed to imagine, like, well, this was all worth it, right? Is worth throwing away a really good storytelling potential of a Demolishor that actually, befriended and worked with the Autobots? Um, you could have had him killed in episode 6 and the one in, or not, it wasn't episode 6. What episode was it? I can't remember. I'm not going to start numbering because I will forget. But the episode where he goes, he basically dies sacrificing himself for Megatron. If the roles were reversed, he sacrificed himself for Optimus, and the one that's a clone in this series, like this one you're looking at right now, was just a clone, you would actually have another really good storytelling potential. Like there'd be reason, like especially for like Hotshot or anyone on Earth that got close to Demolishor, to see this like, affront to his death. This would have been really, really cool. There's a really great way of taking this. No, the writers decided to go, they're just mindless goons. We're just bringing all of them back to Megatron's side by making them mindless goons. Like, I would even account this toward, like, Cyclonus getting redone into Snowcat, which is such a downgrade. Again, could have been a completely different character. Might as well have been a completely different character. What was the point of calling him Demolishor? And, if you're just going to make someone up completely new. I don't get it. It was a plot twist for zero purpose whatsoever. You left a much better story on the table. Several of them, actually. There's the writing failing of the entirety of the series. The series has about 30 episodes of story to tell in about 50 episodes. So your main plot seemed to be that the Decepticons were trying to revive Unicron. That was Alpha Q's whole thing, at least part of Alpha Q's story. We'll talk about that more toward the end. But that was the whole thing. But the problem was the pacing of the story determined that they were going to revive Unicron a little bit after episode 20 or so. And then they beat Unicron. And then someone in the writing team went, oh, wait, we're not even halfway done. Wait a minute. What do you mean? I thought we were doing a 6-month series. What is this? So what you get after that is a lot of filler, a lot of slowing the plot down to a crawl, and ultimately just running it back. We were just going to do another Unicron revival story. Oh, guess that didn't work. It's the first time I've seen like an after school cartoon level villain actually try their big plot again. How many times have you seen a series where you go like, oh wow, like the villain had a good idea there. Why don't they ever try it again and try to just do better than what they did last time? Why don't they just build a second Death Star and cover up that exhaust port? That's Return of the Jedi, but we can't figure it out in any cartoons. But this one ran with it in probably the worst way they could have, because it really did just kind of feel like recycling the same story. And in between those Unicron revivals, and by the way, they finished that about episode 40 or so. They still had 12 episodes to go. But in between that, you had a lot of this. Between the two Unicron revivals, you had a lot of episodes where Transformers just flew through space. They're on their way to the next point in the story. It takes forever to get there. Occasionally they stop and shoot at each other, but really they're just going through space, floating around, shooting each other with guns. And there's so little going on that in order to actually show these characters still had vehicle modes, we have to write it in that they can fly in space in vehicle mode just to show off the toys like this. So you end up with very stupid scenes like this. And again, it goes on forever. There's so many episodes in Energon, in the middle point of Energon, that's literally just them floating through space doing absolutely nothing. It's exhausting. It's exhausting, and it's boring, and yeah, it's a huge failing point of this series. You genuinely could have cut 20 episodes from this series, and you probably would have been able to hit every story beat. Like, they just did not have enough plot to fill out an entire series. Simple as that. To this point, everything we kind of talked about has everything to do with just what happened in Superlink. These are all issues that the original writing team in Japan were responsible for. But that's not even including all the things the dub did. For instance, This is some of the worst performance of Gary Chalk I've ever heard in my life. And that's not a simple thing to do. Gary Chalk is an incredibly talented voice actor. There is a reason he was the voice of Optimus Prime for even longer than Peter Cullen in the cartoons. You think about that. 3 seasons of Beast Wars, 2 seasons of Beast Machines, and 3 seasons of the Unicron trilogy. That's a long time. That's a long time. We threw Neil Kaplan in there for a little bit, but beyond that, from 1996 to 2006, a 10-year run as Optimus Prime is insane. And good on him. There's a reason he earned that. There's a reason he's the Optimus Prime of what is still like the most critically acclaimed Transformer cartoon in Beast Wars. There's big reasons for all of this. He is fantastic at his job. He sounds like he's half asleep in some of these episodes. I swear, there's some Optimus Prime super mode shouts that have zero energy to him whatsoever. I mean, it literally sounds like he just woke up from a nap when he states it. You can imagine how often he had to say Optimus Prime super mode in Armada almost every episode, and then here in Energon, they didn't have the sense to just take one of those and rerun it every single episode, so they didn't have to make him say it every time. But you can tell it's a new performance every time, and it's you can hear him exhausted in some of those. It makes me realize these super modes probably should have had cooler names than just super mode. Just give him something different to say. But that comes down to the director being, just asleep at the wheel. I've talked to Scott McNeil about these shows, and we've had a talk. I don't even remember if this was like during one of the interviews or if this was something that we just talked about on our own. But we did talk about like the difference between these series, because no one really brings these up because, they're not looked upon as well as, Beast Wars, Beast Machines, etc. And according to him, it basically just came down to a director who just did not care about the product. They just wanted to fart out a toy commercial for kids and just call it a day. And that's it. That's it. It's that old school mentality of these only exist to sell toys. And that's where everything falls apart. That's where you get very bad performances from very good voice actors for a series like this. Hurts everything. There is a general disgust. There's a general disrespect for the original script in a lot of these episodes. You can tell a lot of little editing tricks was gone in to just shoehorn in the script for the American version however they could. Characters speak during moments where you can tell their mouth is not moving, which is saying something considering the mouth animations in this show is basically the same 2 frames for everyone, no matter how they speak or how dire the moment is. Like this, like I can swear, I don't even remember where it was, but it's very early in Transformers Energon, where there's a scene where I want to say it's Hot Shot who has to transform while talking, and they slow the footage down, like to go like super slow, all because the line they wrote did not fit the animation, so they had to draw the animation out, which means they have to trim more from the episode, by the way. These are 24-minute episodes. They have to cut them down to 22 for American runtime. So little things like that means even more got cut from the episode. Little details and things you missed. Corners that got cut. Little moments to breathe that were abbreviated. That kind of thing. So there's a disrespect to the original script and no attempt to really adapt it properly. You have one of the best episodes of Transformers ever in Super Link, despite what I say about them just having nothing to do for like a third of the series. Somewhere in the middle of that, they produced one of the best episodes they possibly could have. Characters appear at the same time in their separate bodies. Characters who never appeared together because one died before the other one showed up appeared together. Repaints of each other appeared, like Shock Blast and Six Shot together. All different versions of characters start showing up. A miniature Unicron shows up. And just goes into a fist fight with Hotshot and Rodimus. And All of that. And then you have weird little bumpers like this. Like, there's a Dragon Ball Z reference in Transformers Super Link. It's one of the most fun episodes, and is because it was the 500th animated episode of Transformers. You have to fudge a lot of numbers to get to that point, but they got to that point and did a fantastically fun episode as a result to celebrate it. And the American version did absolutely nothing with it. Absolutely nothing with it. In both versions, it's just a VR training exercise, but the American version just ramped up the seriousness to the point where it just took the life and joy out of the entire episode. They wasted it. They wasted so much potential with it. Like, that's the story, right? That's Energon and Super Link in a nutshell's wasted story potential. And then there is the request. So, there's not a whole lot I could do with this topic in and of itself. However, the Patreon request that I got was to talk about this episode in particular. So, this episode is called Return Our Scorponok. As in, like, return, ! Our Scorponok. Not like he was a hostage at some point. So, the weird thing is, and the reason why I was asked to talk about this episode is because the American version didn't air this episode. And we genuinely do not know why. So, the only reason that according to people who worked on this episode, they never even translated it into English. They never did anything to it. It's not even the English version isn't even a lost episode. It just never existed to begin with. It wasn't found in order to become lost. According to the only sources we have, it might be because the animation was particularly rough in that episode, but that seems like a stretch given how poor quality a lot of animation was in Armada and Energon. But it's not like there's anything controversial in the visuals. It's not like there's anything marketing wise that it was ever brought to light. We genuinely don't know. It does not seem like anything was wrong with this episode. They just skipped it. They just flat out skipped the entire episode. And what makes it really, really bad is that this episode is literally one of the most important in the entire series. Imagine a series where you have so many episodes where absolutely no plot is progressing and nothing is happening and it's just a boring series. And then you take one of the best, most important episodes from the Japanese version and skip it completely for completely unknown reasons. In this episode, Scorponok and Ironhide actually bond. This is where the respect for each other starts to come from, and it's a relationship that plays out for both of them throughout the rest of the series. We don't even get to see it happen in the Energon version, which blows my mind. This is the episode where the Decepticons find out that the Energon's son that they've been going to is the head of Unicron, which again plays an important part of the story for the rest of the series, and then we don't get to see where it came from. This is the only episode that addresses the death of Inferno from the previous episode. In the Energon version, you actually see an episode where Inferno dies, and then the next episode, nobody even brings him up. It's like it didn't happen. It's weird. It's really weird. It makes everyone immediately out of character on the Autobot side of things. And the most egregious of all of this, the worst is this moment right here. Well, it's the best visual example I have. Funny thing, not a whole lot of people pull images from Transformers Energon, as it turns out. Alpha Q Alpha Q's whole thing with reviving Unicron to start off this series is that they need Unicron in order to revive their home planet. You know, that was the whole thing. Unicron destroyed my home, but if I can if I can revive Unicron and get this energy from them, I can restore my home planet. That happens in this episode. So you have what started off as like our first new villain in this series, and a character who grows wildly throughout this series, into something a lot bigger than just like another bad guy. And the entirety of their story arc culminates in an episode that no one in America saw. And it goes beyond, it goes even worse than that, because for the rest of the series, they have edited all of the scripts and translations to completely remove this event from happening. So the entire point of Alpha Q's character is completely thrown out the window. And in order to cover up such a massive like plot element that's now gone, they just write around it and pretend it didn't exist. Just, oh my god, this is I don't know. I don't know anymore. I don't know anymore. Okay, so I completely understand why someone wanted me to talk about this episode in particular, because like this shouldn't happen. This really shouldn't happen. This is a vital episode. Like absolutely pivotal episode. The fact that it was dropped completely is amazing to me. The fact that it's been so long. Imagine all the secrets and mysteries in the Transformers franchise that we have learned about over the years. And still to this day, we have no idea why this episode didn't exist. I don't get it. I really, really do not get it. But that is a lot of the writing misfortunes of Transformers Energon. I didn't even get to the part where like Kicker is a whiny brat that forgets about his hatred of Transformers like 4 episodes in. Like like okay, you're the human kid that gets his power suit. You can sense Energon. You get your own Transformer partners, and you get to be a big hero, and you're whining the entire series. Oh no, my bread is too buttered. My bread is too buttered, and my steak is too well seasoned. What will I do? I could go on. I could go on for hours about everything that Energon and Superlink got wrong, but we'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at the major stuff today, and we'll leave it at this incident. So that's Energon for you. If you never saw it, you're not missing much. And I wish I could say otherwise, because the 2 shows that bookend it are actually more worth your time. But that's going to do it for me today. I hope that satisfies the request as well as I could here, since 1 episode does not an episode make. At least on this channel. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I'm going to go now. Thank you all for watching. I will see you next time. Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a Tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.